Okay, so we were talking about what? So in that case, what do we understand? Yet even these bones from insult to protect some weak memories still, erected now with uncouth rhymes and shapeless sculpture decades implores the passing tribute of our side. So what do we understand that the speaker accepts that even these humble graves have some small or frail or weak memories erected nearby. Erected means called as that moves straight nearby to protect their remains. Remains means called as a bones from insult or neglect. These simple memorials decorated with what you can say that uncouth rhymes. Uncouth rhymes means called as awkward or rough points, and shapeless sculpture ask for a moment of sympathy or respect from those who pass by. Now, the next it is stated their names, their years are spent by the unlettered mutes, the place of fame and elegy supply, and many a holy text around she strews that teach the rustic moralistic to die. So the speaker describes what? How the unlettered mutes. Unlettered mutes means what? An uneducated person or local point. The speaker describes what? That their name, their years, spelled by the unlettered mutes. Unlettered means uneducated person or local poet. So writes their names and years on their grave, replacing the usual fame or grand elegy found on the tombs of the wealthy. Right. These simple memorials are adorned with many a holy texts which offer spiritual comfort and moral lessons to the humble people about how to face death. So you can say that when you talk about the place of fame and elegy supply in many a holy texts around Shishtiyu, that is the rustic moral. Rustic means called as a who are called as a very humble, very polite people, right? And how they about to face the death. Now, in that case, the poet said that a person who is a rich, a person who is a poor, so a person who is a arrogant, a person who is a humble. So both have been laid right next to each other, right? And it is stated that means their names and their year of death, which I have written on the epitaph. Epitaph means that called as a place where it is written, right? So the poet also said, for who to dumb forgetfulness of prey? For who to dumb forgetfulness of prey? It means the speaker asked, who facing dumb forgetfulness? That's something called as who are fool, right? Who have no knowledge about the death, right or not? So, or who is oblivion? Oblivion means what? That called as you don't know what happens after the death, right? So has ever left behind the joys of life. Say he means definitely far away from the happiness, right? Without a backward glance. So this particular stanza actually captures the what it natural human reluctance to live life and its pleasures, even for the unknown peace of death. Right. So this stanza captures what? Natural what? Human hesitance. Right. Natural human hesitance to live life and its pleasure. Right. So people are not, people are hesitated to what? Live their lives. Right. And the kind of a pleasure. So people are, they hold the life and they also desire for what? Happiness in their life. Even for they are unknown, unfamiliar to the peace of death that happens. So the poet also said, on some fond breast the parting soul relies, some pious draughts the closing eye requires. Even from the tomb the voice of nature cries, even in our ashes lead their wanted fires. So the speaker notes that at the moment of a death, on some font, rest the parting soul relies. Rest the parting soul relies means parting means called as a separated, birth to death. The speaker notes that the moment of death, every soul relies. Relies means depends. Depends on what? Depends on a loving person. Right or not? So a father who is a dying, so means depends upon his son, a daughter, right? So or means wants for for comfort also, right? Depends on a loving person or comfort. Even in death, people seek what? People seek pious drops. Pious drops means called as a, that the Tulasi Patra Pani diya jai. So pious means a holy drop water. So tears are a sign of love. Even means they also want their near and dear sit to near next to him, right or not, her. So the speaker suggests that even from the grave means he is in the grave. The voice of nature cries for remembrance, right? So, and even in death, in our ashes, some passion or memory, wanted fire continues to exist. So the poet here clearly stated that how when a person ends his life, at the same time he or she wants a loving person, he or she wants pious drops are called as the tears of a sign of love. And also when talking about that what some kind of a passion, some kind of a memory, right? So that continue to exist. Now when we talk about pious drops, that's something called as a last moment you take some kind of a natural pious water. So at the same time closing eyes, that create a visual of the final moment of life. So when you close your eyes that you are dead. So and uh, these are nothing but called as imagery, image. So metaphor that called the voice of nature cries suggests on what instinctive need for remembrance, right? Instinctive need for remembrance is what voice of nature cries is called as a how nature, right? Speaks here or remembers, right? Even personification you would find out voice of nature. gives nature gives nature a human-like cry for acceptance or acknowledgement. Now, the next one is called as a for you, for thee, who mindful of the unhonored dead. So dust in these lines their artless tale relate. If chance by lonely contemplation led, some kindred spirit shall inquire the thy fate. So for thee who mindful of the unhonored dead. So the speaker addresses the poet or reader who has taken the time to remember the unhonored dead. Unhonored dead, that what? That something called as a somebody who is not been respected, right? By writing their artless tale. Artless tale means called as a simple story, right? So the speaker suggests that perhaps someday a kindred spirit, it means someone with a similar likeness, right? So might also be interested about the poet's own fate while in a moment of a lonely contemplation. So the speaker directly addressed the poet or the reader, right? So for you, for thee means what? For you, right? So and kindred spirit suggests nothing but a sympathetic person, right? So who shares similar feelings, right? So and also imagery that indicates lonely contemplation that influence a quite reflective mood. The poet also said, "Haply some hoary-headed swain may say, often have we seen him at the peep of dawn, brushing with the hasty steps the dews away to meet the sun upon the upland lawn." So haply some hoary-headed swain may say. It means the speaker imagines that in the future, right, an old villager, hoary-headed swain, right? So hoary-headed swain means referring to an old villager, right? So who might speak about the poet? Right, the poet who died. So, and this villager might recall seeing the poet early in the morning, right? So often have we seen him at the peep of dawn. So often have we seen him at the peep of dawn means those people who see the poet, who see the writer. So they feel like what? Sometime they look or they find out the person who is the poet or the reader in the early morning, right? So brushing with the hasty steps the dews away. So walking briskly through the dewy grasses, brushing with the hasty steps the dews away to enjoy the sunrise on a hillside, right? So that the person who is a poet, who is a writer, So how he was quickly moving on the grass and enjoy the sunrise on a hillside. Right. So this stanza influences what? This stanza influences a sense of the poet's appreciation for the simple natural beauty of life. That called as a how it is called as a simple natural beauty of life. Now because when in the early morning, how a person who walks on the means a grassy land enjoying the beauty, right or not? So that's what. The poet even said that there at the foot of a yonder nodding beach that wreathes its old fantastic roots so high, his listless length at noontide would he stretch and pour upon the brook that babbles by. Now, there at the foot of yonder nodding beach. So the speaker continues with the imagined words of the old villagers. So describing how the poet would often rest, right? Rest under a beech tree, right? Under a beech tree. So that's what is indicating as a stretching his listless length, right? So how did the poet means taking rest under a beech tree, yonder nodding beach with a twisting roots. So it means how the poet sitting under the tree, taking the rest, right, enjoying the nature, and there he would lazily lie down at noon and gaze at a nearby brook. So he was nearby the river, right, under the tree, taking a rest, right. It was the noon time, right. So pour open the brook that makes a babbling sound, and the sound of the water that makes babbling sound, right? And this stanza emphasizes the poet's love for what? Love for nature. And that's why he describes the nature called as a brook, the nature called as the afternoon time, the nature called as a beautiful tree. Under the tree, he takes the rest, isn't it? So the poet also said, hard by yon wood, hard by yon wood, now smiling as in scorn, muttering his wayward fancies he would rove, now dropping, woeful one, like one forlorn, or pressed with care, or crushed in hopeless love. So again, hard by yon wood, now smiling as in scorn. The old villager continues, describing how the poet would wander, move here and there near a wood. Your wood means what? A wood, right? So, which appears to mock him. What appears to mock him? The wood. The wood mocks to whom? The poet, right? So, smiling as in scorn, the poet, while roaming, might mutter to himself about his strange thought, right? So, the poet is nothing but enjoying the nature and muttering. Muttering means what? Slowly telling about the poem, right? Or telling the poem. At times he appeared sad and dejected. So one time was there when the poet was sad and hopeless, like someone who is lonely, troubled. So why the poet was sad and rejected or dejected? Now because he was lonely, he was troubled, right? So or suffering from unrequited love. Suffering from unrequited love means what? Hopeless love, right? So the poet also said, one morning I missed him on the customed hill, along the heath, and near his favorite tree. Another came, nor yet beside the rill, nor up the lawn, nor at the wood was he. So the villager recalled how one morning means the villager noticed the poet was absent from his usual place, right or not? So as a poet, he usually goes to usually goes to the natural sites where under the tree and nearby the brook he writes the poem. But one day the villager finds out the poet was missing, not present there, right in his usual place. Where? Customed hill along the hill near his favorite tree. Another day passed and still the poet was not to be seen beside the stream, right on the hillside or near the wood. The stanza creates nothing but a sense of mystery and foreshadow the poet's death. Foreshadow the poet's death. It means it makes the realization that the poet is dead now, right? The next with a digest due in sad array, slow through the churchway path we saw him borne. Approach and read the for thou canst read the lay graved on the stone beneath yon edged throne. So on the next day, what happened? The villagers see the poet's body being carried with that just due inside array. So the poet's body being carried means burned in a funeral procession. So the body of the poet was going for a funeral procession. So that is what known as a with a digest due inside array. With digest due inside array. Along the path to the churchyard. Along the path to a churchyard means going towards the churchway path. Right. The speaker invites the reader to come closer and read the epitaph. Epitaph means, you understand, I told you, the stone on which the name and the date of birth and date of death is written. So, inscribed on the gravestone under an old thorn tree. So, and that grave where it was placed. Now, under a means one of the tree, right? Under the thorn tree. Thorn tree means what? That the tree becomes the place where he sits and he makes the rule. How does he make the rule? He makes the rule by writing poems, right? So, here rests his head upon the lap of earth, a youth to fortune and to fame unknown. Fair signs frowned not on his humble birth, and melancholy marked him for her own. This stanza begins the epitaph. Epitaph means the place where the name is written and the death and the birth date. The poet is described as what? Resting in death. Resting in death means what? Rest his head upon the lap of earth. So the earth becomes the means nothing but a lap, and on which, like the baby, the poet slept. And the poet is dead by now, and the nature is nothing but the mother of it. Right. So, having been a young man who was unknown to both fortune and fame, so he is a young man, but he doesn't want that word fortune. He doesn't look for the luck. He doesn't look for the famous. Right. So, despite his humble origins, he was not ignored by fair and science. He knows about knowledge, fair, and he knows about the science, learning, isn't it? But rather melancholy. But rather melancholy means called as a sorrow or sadness that claimed him as her own. It means he doesn't ignore science. He doesn't ignore knowledge, but he is bound by the poem. Right. So large was his bounty and his soul sincere. Even did a recompense as largely sent. He gave to misery all he had, a tear he gained from heaven was all he wished, right? A friend. So the epitaph continues and describing what the poet as generous. The generous means called as a kind-hearted. And because large was his bunty. Bunty means called as a kindness, right? Or huge heart. And genuine. Genuine means what? Called as authentic soul, right? Authentic soul means original soul. In return, he even rewarded him generously. He even rewarded him generously means what? That something called as a even did nothing but a recompensated. Recompensated means repaid. Repaid what? Now largely seen, largely sent. The poet gave all he had to human suffering. What did the poet give actually? The poet gave all he had. What did he give? He gave nothing but suffering, his pain, his misery, his sadness, right? A tear of sympathy, right? Kindness. In return, he gained friendship. So, what kind of a friendship? And to whom he get the friendship? He gained friendship from the heaven, right? Heaven is called as a God, right? Which was all he desired. And that's what the poet desires. The poet desires what? That the friend to the God, right? I think this is the last one, stanza 32. No farther seek his merit to disclose or draw his frailties from their dread abode. There they alike in trembling hope repose, the bosom of his father and his God. Right. So the final stanza of the epitaph, right? So that advises the reader that what not to inquire further into the poet's virtues. Virtues means qualities, merits, right? Or do not means inquire further about the poet's flaws. Flaws means mistakes, weakness, both his strengths and both his strengths and weaknesses. Right, both its strengths and weaknesses now rest together. So where it is rested, it rests together in the graveyard nearby the church. Right. So in trembling hope repose in the comforting embrace of his Father and his God. This ending suggests a peaceful acceptance. Peaceful acceptance means finally he is dead and he is peacefully sleeping on the graveyard. Right. So, and that is what nothing but the poet's fate. Fate means called as a luck or fortune, where human judgment stop. Now you can't judge now the person because he is dead now. Right. Now, so, and only divine mercy matters. And now only matter is what? How the divine or how the God show the kindness towards the poet. Right. So you would find out that the poetic device the poet has used is called as a trembling hope that gives a hope, a human-like quality of uncertainty. Human-like quality of uncertainty. Second is called as a metaphor. Metaphors, I guess. So, bosom of his father and his God. So that indicates about God's care and protection. God's care and protection. And imagery is called as the dread abode, trembling hope that express the solemn mood of the ending. So it's a calm and peaceful ending of the poet's life. Right now, if you look at the total poem, the poem's main aim is to what? That to indicate about the truth that cannot be avoided, the truth that is uncertainty. Certainty means surety. The truth that everyone has to face. That is called as a death. Neither the poet, nor the rich, nor the wealthy, nor the powerful, nor the poverty, nor the poor. Right. So, or anyone in this world escape from it. That is called as a death. Right. And death ends with what? All things. Your pride, your arrogance, your fame, and your weakness and strength. Everything goes into where? Everything goes into the death way. Am I clear to this? Understood? That's all for the point. Sight. Target